You mentioned the crowdfunding, and we have Heath here really fast. Heath, can you just share briefly how a person can promote their deck through crowdfunding?
Yeah, it's a pretty deep subject. I think a good way to think about it in the beginning is why you would use something like crowdfunding. So when I started my first deck, I didn't really have an audience at all. I launched my first one on crowdfunding, and to me, in the time, it was like super successful to raise the $9,000 that I raised. Um, there was a lot of big things I learned from that very first campaign, because now I've launched 3 of them and I've raised over $200,000 total. One campaign being at 169,000 or something, somewhere around there. But on that first campaign, like if you take into account, like let's just say you have a deck that costs you $5 to print, and you raise $5,000 on your first crowdfunding campaign, and you don't really have a huge audience, but if you raise $5,000, let's say the deck was priced at like $36 on the crowdfunding campaign. If you do the math, it comes out to like you're going to owe like 140 decks or something to that campaign, like 140 times 36 to get that 1,000 units of decks. Hope I'm not making this too complicated. But you raised $5,000, so you actually have enough to print 1,000 decks, right? And you only owe 145 or so to the campaign. That leaves you with another 850 decks that are pre-sold and prepaid for, that you can then roll into other marketplaces like Amazon or Etsy, your own personal Shopify sites or whatever, word of mouth, and they've already been paid for in the production. And then when you sell those other 850 decks over a period of time, that can bring in another $25,000, $30,000 in revenue, which then can help support the next round of whether you're going to do another Kickstarter or another round of printing. So there's not only like the financial aspect of it, that's such a great thing if you can make it work. And you can if you do the work. Like you can't just throw something up on a crowdfunding site and expect people to come and just give you money for it. Like there's a lot of stuff on the back end that you have to set up for it too, to make it successful. But you also get direct contact information to everybody who comes in as a fan and like supports you, and you can then contact them again on your next project. You can keep in touch. So there's so many benefits there. To make it successful, there's a lot involved. And I mean, it's a lot about what Anna's already talking. In the first campaign that I ever did, like the most successful thing that I could do then, because I didn't have a list of emails, was tell every single person I knew, right? And don't be afraid to lean on family and friends to help you get it kickstarted a little bit. The algorithm will actually boost you as you can show it that you can hit a specific goal. So if you only set your goal to like $3,000, but you can raise, $1,000 or so within the first day of your campaign, then it will start showing it to other people, and you might get some new strangers coming in and helping you get to that $3,000 tier, because that's the whole point of crowdfunding, is people really want to support you and help bring it to life, because if you don't hit your goal, then it doesn't get funded and nobody gets their decks. So there's like a crowd momentum to it that's really cool. But I remember then, like I was telling everybody I know, I made a massive list of like hundreds of people I've ever met. I'm like, I'm going to personally reach out to every one of these people and share this project and ask them to share it. And I even had I was in Portland at the time, and I went and stood outside of like a massive bookstore there, and I just passed out samples of the cards with a little sticker and the Kickstarter link on it, so people could actually get a card and be like, oh, I like this. Oh, there's actually a crowdfunding campaign going on for this. That's kind of cool. As I've moved on to other campaigns, like the second one that did the 160,000 or whatever, the majority of that was just my decision to move into actually using ads to promote the campaign. Because the beautiful thing about ads is it forces an audience, right? Like people are everywhere, and the ad systems are like, now we can force your product in front of other people that actually will probably like it, because algorithms are really good to put it in front of people that really do, probably want that product. We all know when we're on like Instagram or something, it's always showing me stuff that I want. I'm like, dang it, they got me, like So it's really effective, but you got to be careful with it too, because like you can blow a bunch of money and it might not convert. So there's a lot of technicality behind it. But from the aspect of just like personal touch, contacting, to collaborations like Anna's talking about, contacting YouTubers that have audiences. I did that on my second campaign a lot. I sent a bunch of deck samples out before the campaign, had them review the videos, and then gave them an affiliate link before the campaign went live, and they attached it to their videos, and just kind of really do the best to track where the audience is coming from. But I found that the majority of my success on the second one was through ads and piggybacking off the audience I had built from the first one. And then the third one was really successful too. It raised around $40,000, and it was like the state of the world was very different than it was during the second campaign. I mean, it's a lot harder. That one just ended recently, but my list, like the momentum from that really kickstarted it. And then I actually pulled the ads from that campaign really quick because they weren't working. So you learn something new every time. And it's really fascinating. Like I like to study other campaigns and see what they're doing. And there's just always something to learn. And I think it's such a great way to do it. If you can list out, 50 people, 50 to 250 people that that you think would support, and then also line up a couple people with audiences that would be willing to support it for you, and then maybe consider, having a small ad budget or something. You can almost guarantee that you can hit like a small goal that you set for yourself, and then be able to pre-print your decks. So I hope that was able to answer your question in some format.